what if I told you that just a simple piece of string sitting in your bathroom cabinet right now might be just as effective at managing your blood sugar as an expensive prescription diabetes medication?
I mean, it sounds completely counterintuitive. It almost sounds like a misreading of the data.
Right.
But when you actually look at the microbiology and the sheer volume of clinical trials, the connection is undeniably right there.
Yeah, it really is. And well, welcome to today's deep dive. We're basically bypassing all those exhausting extreme lifestyle overhauls today
Exactly.
because, you don't need to move to a mountain retreat or survive on like pure green juice to fundamentally alter your biology.
No, definitely not.
Instead, we're looking directly at this massive stack of cutting-edge research we curated specifically for you. It spans sleep science, metabolic health, environmental detox, and neuroscience.
It's quite a stack.
It really is. And the mission today is to extract these high ROI microhabits, these tiny scientifically backed adjustments that actually rewire human biology, but, without the overwhelming information overload.
Yeah, it really comes down to identifying those highly efficient levers in our daily routines.
Right.
We have this ingrained assumption that if a health transformation is going to be significant, the process itself must be punishing.
Oh, 100%. Like it has to hurt to work.
Right. But the data we're looking at today completely dismantles that idea.
And to dismantle it, I think we should start right where we opened, the literal entrance to the body, the mouth.
The perfect place to start.
Okay, let's unpack this because I want to dig into that diabetes claim. Dr. Ben Bickman's research treats flossing not just as, basic dental hygiene, but as a critical metabolic practice.
Yes, exactly.
The sources outline how overgrown bacteria in the mouth, specifically the strain called P. gingivalis, they produce these compounds called lipopolysaccharides, or LPS for short,
Right, LPS.
along with these tissue-destroying enzymes called gingipanes.
And the issue there isn't simply that these compounds just exist in the pockets below your gum line.
Right, they don't stay put.
Exactly. The danger is that they breach the barrier.
Right.
They escape directly into your bloodstream. And once LPS and gingipanes cross over, they trigger this massive cascade of severe systemic inflammation.
And looking at the clinical notes, this isn't just a vague, general kind of inflammation, right?
No, not all.
These bacterial byproducts act almost like heat-seeking missiles. They specifically target your body's insulin receptors.
The IRS-1 receptors,
Yeah.
specifically.
Right, the ones located in your liver and fat tissue. And they physically attack and degrade them.
Yeah.
So your body is literally losing its mechanical ability to regulate blood sugar simply because of the bacterial overgrowth breeding in your gums. It's crazy.
It is crazy. You are literally developing insulin resistance from a localized infection.
Mm.
And the evidence supporting this mechanism is incredibly substantial.
Yeah, a Cochrane review, right?
Exactly. The sources highlight this massive Cochrane review that analyzed 35 randomized control trials. We're talking about over 3,000 individuals.
Wow.
And they found that merely treating the gum disease caused their hemoglobin A1C to drop by roughly half a percentage point in just a few months.
Half a point. Which, just to be clear, that matches the clinical efficacy of several highly expensive oral diabetes medications.
It really does.
Just from using a piece of string to clean out bacterial pockets. I mean, I love this analogy we were talking about earlier. Think of your mouth like the bouncer at an exclusive club.
Oh yeah, the bouncer analogy is great.
Right. If the bouncer lets the wrong crowd, in this case, the gum bacteria, the whole club, meaning your entire body, just gets trashed.
Regularly trash.
And dentists in the research are actually tracking this vicious biological loop. High blood sugar actively impairs your mouth's immune system, which then allows the gum infection to worsen.
Which then pushes more LPS into your blood.
Exactly. Degrading more receptors and making your insulin resistance even more severe.
What's fascinating here is that it's a self-perpetuating cycle of metabolic dysfunction, but the intervention to break that cycle is entirely mechanical, and it's completely within your control.
And that mechanical intervention in the mouth extends beyond just flossing, right? Because the sources point to the mouth acting as this master switch for our entire nervous system.
Specifically regarding how we breathe at night.
Yes, James Nestor's research on mouth taping, I mean, it sounds a little intense at first.
It does sound intense.
The practice is literally just placing a small piece of porous surgical tape over your lips before you go to sleep to force nasal breathing.
Right. And for habitual mouth breathers, the research suggests acclimating by wearing the tape for maybe 20 to 30 minutes during the day first.
Just to avoid any panic responses at night.
Exactly. But the clinical shifts that occur once nasal breathing is restored are just profound.
Okay, let's talk about the Stanford experiment, because this blew my mind. There was this landmark 20-day Stanford experiment detailed in the stat.
Oh, the 10-day split study?
Yeah. They forced participants into a mouth-breathing state for 10 days. And the data showed their snoring spiked instantly to like 4 or 5 hours a night.
And they developed immediate sleep apnea.
Immediate. Then, for the next 10 days, they switched them to nasal breathing using the lip tape. By day 2, the snoring and the sleep apnea were 100% resolved.
Just day 2.
Yeah. And there's also that case study with Dr. Rangan Chatterjee's wife. She tried the tape and experienced a complete transformation in her energy after just one single night.
Well, the contrast is immediate because you are entirely shifting the chemical environment of the body.
So going back to my bouncer analogy, mouth breathing isn't just the bouncer falling asleep and letting the wrong crowd in mechanically. Based on the chemistry, it's like the bouncer is actively cutting the power to the club's ventilation system.
That's a very accurate way to put it.
But logistically, how does simply forcing air through the nose instead of the mouth completely alter your blood pressure and nervous system overnight? I mean, is it really just that mechanical act?
Well, it all comes down to a specific molecule. When you breathe through your nose, the nasal cavity doesn't just, mechanically filter out pathogens.
Right.
The actual friction of the air moving through the sinuses releases a heavy perfusion of nitric oxide directly into your bloodstream.
Okay.
And nitric oxide is a potent vasodilator. It actively widens your blood vessels, which immediately lowers your blood pressure, and chemically signals your autonomic nervous system to exit a stressed state and enter a restorative one.
Oh, wow. So nasal breathing is essentially dosing your nervous system with a relaxation chemical with every single breath.
And conversely, mouth breathing completely bypasses that nitric oxide production.
Yeah.
It mechanically causes airway collapse, which explains the sudden sleep apnea in that Stanford study.
Right, right.
And chemically places your body in a state of sympathetic stress.
Yeah.
You are basically trapped in a mild fight or flight response all night long.
Which is exhausting.
It is. And long term, that chronic stress and lack of deep restorative sleep becomes a massive driver of hypertension and cardiovascular disease.
It's wild. But, keeping those pathogenic bacteria out of the bloodstream and regulating our oxygen at the mouth, that's really only the first line of defense.
Right, because things will eventually get through.
Exactly. Once environmental invaders or toxins actually breach the system, the body's entire defense protocol relies on what's waiting for them further down in the gut microbiome.
The second line of defense.
Yeah. Which leads us right into Dr. Robin Chutkin's clinical research on diet. She mandates this very specific microhabit, consuming 30 distinct plant types every single week.
And we should definitely clarify that the sources don't mean eating 30 full salads a week.
Thank goodness.
Right. This quota includes vegetables, fruits, whole grains, nuts, legumes, and crucially herbs and spices.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. That inclusion of herbs and seeds completely changes how feasible this is. A dash of oregano, a sprinkle of chia seeds, some cinnamon in your coffee, it all counts toward the 30.
It all counts, yeah.
It's very much like building an investment portfolio. You wouldn't take your entire retirement fund and put it into just 3 stocks, right? Even if they were historically healthy stocks like broccoli, carrots, and peas.
No, you want diversity.
Exactly. If the market shifts or a new pathogen is introduced, you're wiped out. You need, index fund level diversity to be truly resilient.
That is a highly accurate way to look at it because the microbiome operates entirely on that diversity.
The American Gut Project showed this, didn't they?
They did. They analyzed the microbiomes of over 10,000 individuals globally, and they proved that the absolute top predictor of optimal gut health isn't some specific dietary dogma.
It's not about being strictly vegan or paleo.
Exactly. It is the sheer variety of plant fibers you consume.
Okay.
30 just proved to be the biological threshold for resilience.
And there's that telling clinical story from Dr. Chutkin's own practice. She regularly treats vegans who come in assuming their gut health must be pristine just because they avoid meat.
But they present with severe dysbiosis.
Yeah, chronic gut issues. Because they're eating the exact same 3 or 4 vegetables in heavy rotation every single day.
Right. And the moment she expands their dietary matrix to include a wide variety of seeds, nuts, and spices, their symptoms resolve.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what is that diversity actually doing chemically?
Well, a wide variety of fibers is required to feed highly specific symbiotic bacterial strains. Those bacteria are essentially the generals of your immune system.
Because what, like 70 or 80% of your immune system is physically located in the gut lining?
Exactly. 70 to 80%.
Uh-huh.
And beyond digestion, we're talking about feeding strains that physically modulate what's called the estrobolome.
The estrobolome,
Hmm?
which is the specific collection of gut bacteria that metabolize and balance estrogen levels in the body, right?
Yes. So you are directly modulating your immune response and your hormonal balance just by, aggressively diversifying your seed and spice intake.
That's incredible. And having that robust gut immunity is really the prerequisite for the detoxification pathways detailed in our next set of research.
The environmental toxins.
Yeah, because we are constantly navigating environments saturated with industrial toxins, microplastics, heavy metals, air pollutants. It's unavoidable.
It really is.
But Dr. John Gildea and David Roberts' research points to a highly specific intervention for fleshing these out, supplementing with stabilized sulforaphane.
Which is incredibly potent. The clinical notes suggest a therapeutic dose of up to 350 milligrams a day.
And you definitely shouldn't exceed that to avoid gastric distress.
Exactly. You don't want to overdo it.
Now, the sources describe sulforaphane as the choir director of the body's antioxidants. I understand it activates the NRF2 pathway, which boosts our cellular defense,
Right.
and it actively turns off the NFKB genetic switch, which
Yeah.
tells the body to stop producing chronic inflammation.
Yes, it's a dual action mechanism.
But I was reading the clinical notes on lysosomes here, and it looks like environmental microplastics basically jam up our cellular trash cans. So how is sulforaphane actually getting in there to unjam them?
Well, lysosomes are exactly that. They're the waste disposal units inside your cells. Over time, deeply embedded environmental toxins and degraded cellular material just get jammed in these units.
Like a clogged drain.
Exactly. And the cell can't clear them. Sulforaphane chemically assists in physically breaking open these congested lysosomes.
Wow.
It restores the cell's ability to finally flush out those trapped microplastics and heavy metals so you can safely excrete them from the body.
Primarily through urine and feces.
Yes. It forces the cell to finally take out the trash.
And the measurable impact of this is staggering. There was that Johns Hopkins study conducted in a highly polluted Chinese metropolis.
The airborne pollutants study.
Researchers administered a sulforaphane-rich beverage to participants, and they rapidly began excreting massive amounts of airborne pollutants, like benzene, straight out of their systems.
And the systemic anti-inflammatory effects are just as profound as the detoxification.
The case study with David Roberts himself perfectly illustrates that. Following his late wife's battle with cancer, the sheer psychological stress caused him to develop severe, crippling joint inflammation in his knuckles.
He was entirely unable to play his guitar.
Right. He took just a 10-milligram dose of stabilized sulforaphane, and within 24 hours, his pain vanished.
24 hours.
They tracked his blood work, and his IL-6 levels, which is a major pro-inflammatory marker, it completely plummeted. It dropped by nearly 30% in a single day.
By clearing out those embedded toxins and drastically lowering inflammatory markers like IL-6, you are attacking the primary hallmarks of cellular aging.
But sulforaphane works by triggering a beneficial cellular stress response, doesn't it?
It does, yes.
And that highlights a critical through line in all these sources. Optimizing human health isn't about existing in a sterile, completely stress-free bubble.
Not at all. It's about applying a highly specific, acute dose of stress and then aggressively protecting the recovery phase.
So what does this all mean for our daily routines?
Well, it's the biological concept of hormesis. The dose makes the poison, and the dose makes the cure.
Let's look at how this applies physically. The sources cite fitness experts Sal DiStefano and elite natural bodybuilder Torrey Washington. Their rule for longevity in physical training is surprisingly restrained.
It is. They limit full body resistance training to just 3 days a week.
And crucially, if your goal is muscle hypertrophy, actually building muscle, you must avoid using a cold plunge immediately after your workout.
Right. This is a point of major confusion for people because both resistance training and cold exposure are universally recognized as beneficial stressors.
Sure.
But the sequencing of those stressors dictates the biological outcome. Building muscle requires an acute, localized inflammatory response immediately following heavy lifting.
That specific inflammation is the chemical signal that commands your body to grow the tissue, right?
Exactly. It synthesizes new proteins.
So using an ice bath immediately after heavy lifting, I mean, it's like tearing down an old house to build a mansion, but calling the fire department the second the demolition starts.
That's a great way to visualize it.
You need that structural damage, that temporary fire of inflammation to rebuild the muscle. If you jump in the cold plunge, you artificially blunt that necessary inflammation and you halt the adaptation process.
That is the exact physiological mechanism at play. And regarding the volume of stress, clinical sports data shows severe diminishing returns.
Like lifting 2 days a week yields 75% of your genetic muscular potential.
Right, and 3 days yields 85%. Pushing past that threshold for most individuals doesn't build more muscle. It frequently results in central nervous system burnout.
You exceed the recoverable dose of stress.
Yes, and Tor Washington is the perfect physical embodiment of this data. He is winning pro bodybuilding competitions in his 50s.
Which is wild.
And to preserve his muscle mass, he strictly avoids post-workout cold plunges.
But didn't he change his protocol when he got injured?
He did. When he developed a severe frozen shoulder right before the Olympia competition, he entirely changed his approach. He used the cold plunge specifically to treat that joint.
Because it was an acute injury, not an adaptive muscle stressor.
Exactly. And the cold exposure healed his shoulder in 3 days. He managed the specific dose of stress perfectly.
This raises an important question, though. We are so meticulous about managing our physical recovery. We track our lifting volume, we time our ice baths,
Right.
yet we are completely ignoring our neurological recovery by bringing our smartphones right into bed with us every single night.
It is arguably the most critical missing link in the longevity conversation today.
Yeah.
We are placing our neurological systems into chronic, unrecoverable states of stress. Arthur Brooks's research on brain health addresses this epidemic directly by instituting mandatory tech-free zones.
His parameters are aggressive but clear. No technology during the first hour of the morning.
None.
No technology during meals. No tech the last hour before bed. And absolutely no phones in the bedroom ever.
To understand the necessity of those boundaries, we really have to examine how the brain processes reality. The human brain is functionally divided.
Yeah.
The left hemisphere is designed to handle complex, task-oriented algorithms, categorization, rapid-fire data processing.
The logistical stuff.
Exactly. Meanwhile, the right hemisphere is responsible for navigating complex, unanswerable realities, experiencing meaning, awe, purpose, and deep human connection.
And the research points out that constant unchecked screen time forces the brain into a hypervigilant left brain state. You are endlessly scrolling, swiping, processing microtasks.
And by staying neurologically locked in that left brain state, you actively suppress the right brain functions required for actual psychological resilience and meaning.
Wow. And furthermore, if you're looking at a screen during dinner, you're physically blocking eye contact with the people around you.
Which is a huge problem.
Right, because without that eye contact, you completely suppress the release of oxytocin. You are literally starving the brain of its primary bonding hormone while you eat.
And we can clearly see the population-level data reflecting this neurochemical starvation over the last 2 decades.
It's terrifying. The behavioral surveys pinpoint the year 2008, which coincides perfectly with the mass adoption of smartphones and social media as a societal tipping point.
Youth depression tripled.
The reported sensation of life feeling meaningless just exploded across all demographics. The sources track this as a literal psychogenic epidemic driven entirely by left brain technological overload.
Individuals become locked in a neurochemical doom loop. The brain continuously seeks dopamine through swiping and scrolling.
Which provides short-term stimulation.
Right. But it dramatically elevates the long-term risk of clinical anxiety and profound midlife isolation.
There is a really powerful story in the sources about a highly successful fitness influencer who recognized he was trapped in this exact doom loop.
Oh, this case study is fascinating.
Despite being at the absolute peak of physical condition, he realized he was profoundly depressed. So he took radical systemic action. He deleted his social media presence entirely.
He's wiped it out.
Yeah. He removed every single mirror from his house to stop obsessing over his physical appearance. He even showered in the dark for a year just to break his attachment to his reflection.
It's extreme,
Yeah.
but effective.
And he enrolled in physical therapy school to focus on healing other people. By abandoning his screen-driven algorithmic me-self and looking outward to serve others, he completely cured his depression.
Because he deliberately shifted his neurological processing back to the right hemisphere.
Right.
He found actual meaning not by adding another supplement or protocol, but by removing the source of the chronic left brain stress.
It is a brilliant testament to how adaptable our biology and neurology actually are. And really, I think that brings our entire exploration today full circle.
He really does.
We've decoded a tremendous amount of research, from utilizing a piece of dental floss as a metabolic master switch to protect our insulin receptors.
To taping our mouths to trigger systemic nitric oxide release.
We've explored how eating 30 distinct plants acts as an index fund for our gut immunity, how sulforaphane unjams our cellular trash cans to flush out heavy metals.
And how sequencing our cold plunges ensures we actually build muscle instead of just tearing it down.
And finally, how throwing our phones out of the bedroom allows us to reclaim our right brain humanity.
When you lay it out like that, it is a highly actionable list of interventions that fundamentally alter our internal chemistry.
It really is. And I want to remind you, the listener, why these specific insights matter so much to your daily life.
Absolutely.
True health transformation, the kind that allows you to thrive with high energy and resilience into your later decades, it does not require you to abandon your life and become a full-time biohacker.
Nobody has time for that.
Exactly. It is found right here in these highly efficient, scientifically backed microhabits that actually respect your time and your reality.
And as we conclude this deep dive, I think there's a vital perspective shift hidden within all of this research.
Oh, definitely.
We spend an enormous amount of our time and energy obsessing over what we need to add to our life to achieve optimal health.
Always adding things.
Right. We constantly seek more complicated workout routines, more exotic diets, more tracking applications, more data.
Yeah.
But looking at the science we've unpacked today, from fasting from our screens to stopping the mechanical habit of mouth breathing to clearing out embedded microplastics and removing the mirrors from our walls, what if the ultimate secret to human longevity is actually found in what we are willing to remove?
That is such a profound thought. You don't need an overwhelming overhaul to reset your biology. Maybe you just need to close your mouth, put down the phone, and let the small hinges do their work. Keep questioning, keep experimenting, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.